Welcome back to the Coaching Space podcast with me, Justin Bodel, where I take a look at the people side of performance. My guest today is someone who I've been wanting to have on since I launched the podcast, and it was a real privilege to have him, former Springbok and Lions rugby player and captain Warren Whiteley. Warren began his rugby career here in Durban, but ultimately made a name for himself at the Lions in Johannesburg. In 2013, with the team having been relegated from Super Rugby and in a serious rebuilding phase, a young Warren Whiteley was appointed as captain of the team and in a number of years helped to galvanise that team and lead the Lions to become arguably the most successful South African team during that period of time and one of the most exciting teams within World Rugby. Winning Currie Cup titles, topping South African Super Rugby conference logs, topping the overall Super Rugby conference log, and being in 3 consecutive Super Rugby finals. He managed to lead and galvanize the team to reach new heights and to produce a host of Springbok rugby players in the process. After starting regularly for the Boks in the number 8 jersey in 2016, Warren was appointed as the Springbok captain in 2017 and did an incredible job at, again, galvanizing and rebuilding and leading a team during quite a difficult period in our Springbok rugby's history. Unfortunately, injury curtailed a lot of Warren's career going forward, and while he still had opportunities to represent the green and gold and to still play some rugby in Japan, Warren has shifted his focus now to his second love, which is coaching and teaching and giving back, and is doing an incredible job working as one of the coaches at his beloved Lions Rugby Union. In today's episode, we talk about leadership. Warren shares a little bit about his journey into leadership. He talks about his personal leadership style and his views around what good leadership actually looks like. We talk about the link between leadership and team culture. And Warren, in his honest way, shares a very vulnerable moment for him in giving his greatest leadership lesson to date. It was a privilege to chat to Warren around the topic of leadership. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really hope that you do too. Good morning, Warren. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, our pleasure, Justin. Awesome to be here, and obviously looking forward to a lacquer chat, man.
Yeah, listen, I'm so excited to talk about leadership with you. It's an area I'm really fascinated in and like really passionate about, and I know you are as well, and obviously you have a lot of experience, so yeah, thank you for being open to just kind of sharing your thoughts and insights around that as well.
No, awesome, man. I look forward to it.
Cool. So okay, first question, let me dive straight in. You're obviously widely regarded for your leadership skills, for your leadership abilities. My first question really is that something that you always saw in yourself? You know, when you think back to yourself growing up or think back to your sort of early parts of your career, did you always see yourself as a leader, or do you feel that it's something that you kind of grew into?
Yeah, I definitely didn't see myself as a leader. I think growing up, I was quite reserved and a bit introverted and quite shy, to be honest. Yeah. And I think I definitely grew into the role, and you know, my first leadership role, because I don't like to say position, but my first leadership role was actually at Glenwood in my last year as captain. Before then, I hadn't captained any team or been in any type of leadership role in any shape or form. I'd had very little experience leading up to my captaincy at the Lions. I definitely believe that it's something you can grow into, and for me that was definitely the case.
How did you feel? I mean, when you were the Lions were relegated from Super Rugby, you kind of in this rebuilding phase. Johan Ackerman steps in and he appoints you as captain. I mean, as someone was still fairly young in your career, and like you said, maybe not with a wealth of leadership experience or not having seen yourself as a leader, how did that feel in the moment?
It was a bit daunting, to be honest with you, at first. I must say, not having been in any type of leadership position, not having played SA schools or just or South African under 20 or under 21. So it was a bit daunting. We had some really good captains before that. A guy like Josh Strauss, who I was good friends with. We won the Currie Cup in 2011. Kobus Grobler, known as Baywatch, who was captain at the Lions for many, many, many years. And then just observing someone like Coach Johan Ackerman, was also amazing, just to observe him on a daily basis. Wow. And when thrusted into that role, I was definitely nervous and a bit out of my comfort zone, and I just grew into it, and I definitely made some mistakes and learned some amazing lessons along the way. And I'm still learning every single day, and but in its essence, leadership is about service on a daily basis, and less about you and more about we and us. So yeah, I think it's up for everyone. It's not just for someone in a position or a rank or a title. It's for all of us.
Amazing. And you've probably touched on it a little bit, Warren, but how would you define your personal leadership style?
I've always believed in first connecting with people and trying to understand people for their differences. Every person is different, come from different backgrounds, and especially in our country, religious backgrounds, cultural languages, different languages, and trying to understand people and empathize with them and connect with them. And once you form a relationship with someone, trust is built. And when you build trust, then you can keep each other accountable for your actions. And once there's accountability between the two of us, we can grow and we can get better, and we can improve on a daily basis. But the core is in our relationship, in our understanding of each other, and I believe that's where it starts, and it really does start with you as well, and being authentic, and being true to being true to yourself, understanding yourself, knowing your, and I don't like to say weaknesses, but we all have struggles, we all have things, and that's why leveraging from each other, leveraging from people collectively, we'll always be better. And you can never be as strong or as powerful with yourself, but collectively with a group, leveraging from each other, sharing ideas, the end product is always going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it kind of leads me to my next question. And this is something that I'd asked actually a previous guest as well, because it interests me so much, is, do you think that there are a common set of leadership characteristics that every leader should have in order to be successful? And in other words, like, people obviously come in different shapes and sizes, their leadership style is different, the team might be different, but do you think at the core of it, there's certain characteristics that every leader should have, regardless of the team they're in or their own style, that would enable them to be successful?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think it starts again with yourself and being true to yourself and authentic as a leader. If you are authentic and true to yourself, you can form relationships. You can listen, you can ask questions. We need to ask questions. By asking questions, we find deeper meaning within other people. We start understanding why they view things in the way they do view them. And then we have deeper understanding of them, and we can form relationships, form trust, and then we can keep each other accountable. As simple as that. So I do think there are some basics, but it definitely does start with yourself, being true to yourself. I've always believed, in sharing, in leveraging off each other, and by having a hierarchical system, which is very rigid, which is kind of whatever I say goes. And there have been instances when I've been in environments where there has been short-term success. And I do believe you can still reach success in this way, but I don't believe that it's sustainable. And I don't believe that that's high performance, because high performance is long-term success. And how do we achieve long-term success? By feeling a sense of belonging, by feeling we belong. And that's where, where magic happens, is where I feel I belong in this environment. It's somewhere where I can grow, where I can make mistakes, where I can be held accountable. But there are relationships, there is deeper meaning. I think that's really important.
Amazing. And one of the things that you touched on there, Warren, was this idea of asking good questions. And actually listening to responses, because and I love that you were saying that, because I did a bit of sort of personal research into this idea of leadership, like what makes a great leader. We ran a survey, put it out, and got a whole bunch of responses, and totaled up like, what are the things that make a leader great? And the number one thing that came out was actually listening. What is it that makes a great leader? Was actually active listening. And I thought it was such a great response, that because people often think, now that I'm the leader, now I need to talk. It's about my voice, and I get the final say, and I'm commanding the troops. And actually it's almost the opposite. It's about saying, do I now take the time to ask good questions and to listen to what people have to say, and to harness the collective intelligence kind of the group. And I just thought that was a lovely, so great that you
and I agree. We always inclined to, we always want to say what our opinions are, and we always want to speak first. And I would say that the key is not just to listen, but actually to speak last. And what's amazing about actually speaking last is number one, when you allow others to speak first, they connect with you and they appreciate that. They automatically feel a connection by you asking a question, by allowing them to speak first. And then second, by letting everyone speak first, you can then leverage from their answers. So I think, speaking last is a skill. And I must admit, I mean, it's not something I always get right, to be fair, but I can tell you it's a skill. If you can harness that skill, it's really powerful.
Amazing. I love that bit of insight. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next question. Another area I'm very passionate about, and I've learned a lot, certainly from you in this space, is the area of team culture, and understanding the importance of the culture and the environment that we create within a team. And my question really is, what is the link between leadership and team culture?
No, there's a massive link, I believe. And as I mentioned before, leadership is not a rank or a title. It's something that's ingrained within your environment, within your team, and it starts with service first and foremost. Less of me and more of we. And with that again comes relationships. With that comes trust. With that comes acceptance. And once those relationships are formed, like I mentioned before, accountability is kept. And when we can be accountable, because we are human, we are going to make mistakes, But when we can keep each other accountable, and when we can take accountability, when I can actually put up my hand and say, listen, guys, Flip, you know what? I could have been better in this situation. I apologize. By being authentic, by sharing that with people, there's a great appreciation amongst others. And that's when trust is formed, and we can actually go forward and we can get better as a group, regardless of, what our goal is, whether we are a team, a rugby team, netball, whether we are in corporate business, regardless, it's about leveraging with each other, creating relationships, and moving forward together. So yeah, there's a massive link.
I think, because like I said, this area of culture, I've really, I believe great teams are built on great culture. Look at what you guys did at the Lions. You look at any great sports team, any great corporate team. It's about creating a space that actually produces a high quality, high performance sort of environment, and that comes through the way we behave. Yes. And that culture should be the foundation. It's the cement that holds everything together. It's the glue, particularly when times get tough. But you've got to be really intentional about kind of building the culture that you want. And I've noticed just more and more, like, wow, that's so important. It's also about understanding how important it is for leaders to drive that. Yeah. Because if you're going to preach it, yes, and your leaders aren't going to model that behavior, the whole thing crumbles. It just becomes words on a page, or something we spoke about once, like it completely falls apart. Is that, I mean, you've been involved in obviously a national setup, you've been involved in provincial setups. Yeah. How, is that something that you've seen, like, and you've obviously had to walk that talk yourself? Is that something that you find quite natural, or have you also seen the sort of opposite, where the leaders haven't modeled the behavior and the culture's been affected?
Definitely, Justin, and that's so important. Firstly, what's important is that together we decide on a set of values. It needs to come from all of us, whether that is a team or corporate or whatever. It needs to come from everyone, and we need to decide on, a set of values that we want to live by. It needs to be driven on a daily basis, and of course, the people in those positions, whether that's your head coach, whether that's your CEO, your coaches, they need to be the epitome of that. So in our environment, we've got a lot of youngsters coming in every single year, and if you just look at the whole South African rugby model at the moment, our teams are actually reducing in age. So 23, 24 is almost seen as an experienced player now. And we've got a lot of 19, 20-year-olds, and these are young men, wanting to learn. So if you are in a position as a coach, as a head coach, as a CEO, you need to lead by your actions. So that's the most important thing, is to act and lead. Words are important, and you decide on, the set of values, but then the actions, you need to come with those words.
Absolutely. So, a question that I've wanted to ask you for a while, and maybe it's difficult to pick just one thing, but do you have what's sort of your best piece of leadership advice or wisdom that you've learned in your career to date? Maybe it's something that you've read, or something that you've observed, or something that someone's told you. What's sort of that maybe one piece of great leadership advice that you've learned so far in your career?
Yeah, I believe. Well, I can tell you a story. Something that happened to me. I was made captain in 2013 by Coach Akis, and we had some success. We won the Vodacom Cup and went into the Super Rugby. Got promoted back into Super Rugby in 2014, and we had a decent season in 2014, winning a lot more games than what was expected. And leading into 2015, We just didn't make the playoffs, and we made my debut as a Springbok in 2014. And I think one of the biggest lessons I learned was, while we were preparing for the World Cup in 2015, I knew, well, I just got a sense that I wasn't going to make the squad. You know, often teams are put out, and I just got the sense like I wasn't going to make it. And having lost the Currie Cup final in 2014, having captained the side in 2014, we played against Western Province on Newlands, and geez, it was a close game, and we got a penalty close to the touchline, and Magnus Boshoff, I then decided we're going to go for poles. And he unfortunately missed the kick. And yeah, it was just a game I really felt we could have won. And I took it on myself. And going into 2015, one of my goals then, if I didn't make the World Cup squad, was to lead the team in the Currie Cup and to win the Currie Cup. That was a massive goal of mine. So when I didn't make the World Cup squad, I got back to Joburg, got back into the team environment, and I had this expectation of, I'm going to lead the team. You know, we're going to win this Currie Cup, and I'm going to lead them, and it was all about me. And I just felt this burden of 2014, and everything was just about me. And I felt that it really had it became an egotistical thing, you know, leading the team and being captain. And I remember Coach Aki's calling me into the office. At that time, we hadn't lost the game, because I'd been in the World Cup setup, which was about, 2 months or 3 months. I can't exactly remember, but there'd been probably about 5 or 6 games already on Currie Cup. Jaco Kriel was leading the team, doing a phenomenal job, and we hadn't lost the game. We had a phenomenal season. I got back. I had this expectation of, I'm going to lead the side. I'm going to come in there. And Coach Johan called me in, and he said, listen here, Warren, I'm not going to make you captain. Jaco's going to lead the side. And I just felt, I was just devastated. I can't even describe to you how I felt. I was so devastated, having imagined 2014 losing that Currie Cup final. I was devastated, and it just allowed me then to start questioning, what has this position of captain become for me? Has it become a position? Has it become a rank? Has it gotten to my ego? And that is exactly what happened. It had become all about me. And I had to go home. I promise you, I was like in tears. I was broken. I remember speaking to my wife, and I was just broken. And I just realized that it just got into my head. And fundamentally, I had to go back to the fundamentals of leadership. And what is that? It's about service. It's about serving the people next to you. And I can tell you, it wasn't easy. I struggled. I mean, my first game back, we played against Western Province. And I mean, I had a shocking game. I was shocking, hey. I missed a couple tackles, and that was something I really prided myself. And I just felt a bit lost. And it was just a process I needed to go through within myself. Coach Johan came back to me in the week, and he said, listen, I don't want to play you against Western Province, because we are preparing now for the semi-final. And I went up to him and I said, I firstly just apologized, and I told him, listen, I just had this massive realization, I want to play on this weekend. Please give me the opportunity to play. And he didn't actually want me to play. And I said, please, just play me. I really, really want to play. And we played against Griquas, and I had a decent performance. And I just got back to the real essence of what leadership is, and that's serving the people around you. The rest is history. beat the Free State in the semi-final, and it was a really, really close game. Played Western Province again in the final, and we won. And I mean, Yaku did an unbelievable job. He led us to that final unbeaten, and it was just a huge lesson for me, and something that, you know, that I'll carry forward for the rest of my life.
Wow, sure. I mean, that is such an amazing story, and thank you so much for being so just open and vulnerable and sharing. Like, it's so powerful for people listening to this, for young leaders, whether they're in sport or business or anywhere, to just hear these kinds of stories, you know, because we obviously watch on TV, or we read the articles, and you forget the real sort of humanness behind all of this. And it's so cool to hear that. Yeah, just the learning that you took out of that, and how that's made you a better leader and a better person going forward. All right, so Warren, I know I've kept you for enough time already. So final question: what piece of advice, what final piece of advice would you give to a leader out there? Maybe a young leader who's leading a team, captaining a side for the first time, or even an experienced leader, maybe who's in corporate somewhere. What advice would you give to someone who wants to understand a little bit more about what leadership is and how best to lead their team? What would your final piece of advice be?
Look, I believe it's easy to complicate it. I mean, you can go read up about leadership, and you'll find various articles and podcasts and interviews, and you know, you can often feel a bit lost. You can feel like, oh no, man, I'm just not good enough. Can I do this? And you can complicate things, you know, very, very easily.
Yeah.
What we must remember is that, and I've said it a couple times, is in its essence, it's about serving others. And serving people is as much as going to the shops and saying please and thank you. You know, asking questions, how was your day? And like we spoke about before, listening, understanding, and forming relationships. That's what leadership is. So every single person is capable of being a phenomenal leader. All of us, it's within all of us. So, you know, don't complicate things. Start with service. Start with serving others and the people around you, and the people. Start with the people closest to you. I mean, that's where it starts. Yeah. Whether that's your mom, your sister, your brother, your uncle, or your best friend. You know, start with that.
Awesome. Well, I think a perfect note to end it on. That's a really awesome piece of advice. And yeah, Warren, just again, thank you so much for sharing. Like, for someone who's led at the highest level and continues to operate at the highest level, it's just really, very inspiring to hear your thoughts on this. I love what you were saying about just like not overcomplicating it, getting to the essence of what leadership is all about. Like you said, I think people can get caught up in the title and what they now think they should do or how they should be. You know, suddenly they get given a title and now they almost start to act differently to what they were before and who they were before and what actually got them the leadership title in the first place. So it's really cool to hear just that idea of kind of staying true and staying authentic and serving others. Yeah. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I know people are gonna love this as much as I did.
No, cheers, Justin. It's been awesome, eh? Really enjoyed it, and maybe we'll just keep serving, eh? And whatever environment we're in, we all have opportunity to, to make it great.
Fantastic, man. Oh, that's so brilliant. Well, listen, all the best for the season, and we'll chat soon.
Cheers, Justin. Appreciate it.